We are in an era where pets are family members. They should be treated as such. And you need to understand that people are extremely emotionally connected to their pets. The client communication and client satisfaction is key. And let me say it again, key in having a successful veterinary business. And unfortunately, I'm not afraid to say this, it's lacking. It's lacking big time in veterinary practices.
Dr. Jesus Aramendi was born and raised in Venezuela. He appreciated the love for animals he witnessed in America, so he moved and obtained his veterinary license in Florida. The appreciation for the human-animal bond will come full circle as it is the center of his brand new veterinary practice, Fur Life Vets, that will open in the fall. He also brings over a decade of growing and learning inside the Banfield Pet Hospitals and business and technology skills from working at Chewy. So much wisdom. Here is Dr. Aramendi. I think you have a unique start for a lot of veterinarians in that you were born and raised in Venezuela. That is a fun place to start. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what it's like in Venezuela and when you started to know you were interested in getting into veterinary medicine?
Oh, absolutely. Touched my heart there. My childhood was beautiful. I mean, I have the best memories. Venezuela, it's a beautiful country with great people. I am the fourth of five in my house, so we had a little bit of organized chaos, let's say, in growing up. But it was a lot of fun because there was something to do every day. There was a different story every day, and one of the things that I definitely noticed at a very young age is I had a strong inclination for animals. We always had pets. We had parakeets, we have dogs. At some point, we have bunnies. So, there's always animals in my environment. But I was very interested. Like, we will go on a trip, or we will go to the beach, and like I will be immersed for hours looking for seashells or looking for starfish or whatever I could find, while my siblings were watching cartoons or were watching like the family shows. I was always watching Jacques Cousteau, National Geographic. Like, there was always that inclination. I also, I feel a little bit ashamed of saying this, but like I will sneak into my parents' library and like start reading books about like animal encyclopedias and like anatomy books. So I was a little bit of a nerd. and
Most of us are. You're in good company. So
and so I figured that was a little bit different. I still did the same things that all my siblings did and all the kids did, play outside, and it was great. It was great growing up. When I was in high school, finishing high school, I definitely wanted to do something that had to some inclination or something to do with animals. So I decided that I wanted to be a marine biologist, but that dream lasted a very short period of time after I had a conversation with my dad and said, you like nice things. As a marine biologist, unfortunately, the salary is not going to be the best for those nice things. So you have to make decisions. Long story short, the plan initially was for me to become a human surgeon. And it's because I also had that inclination for medicine. And, growing up in South America, in society, it was like, that old school mentality that, you're either a doctor or you're an engineer or you are an attorney. So it was one of those things that my family kind of like put me into. Getting into medical school was very hard because there were many applicants and not enough schools. I mean, shocker, right? That's the situation everywhere, it seems like. And I actually ended up in vet school accidentally. I started in a school going to the first semester of veterinary medicine with the goal of transferring to human medicine after the first semester was completed, because they did have that option. Once, of course, I was in and I saw my first couple of classes, it was like a discovery. It was like, oh my God, this is what I wanted to do my entire life. And I just didn't know until now. No joke. I finished my first semester and I received an application to transfer to medical school. And I called my mother and I say, hey, mom, I got the form. What should I do? I really like it. My mother is like, well, you should become a medical doctor, because it's always good to have a doctor in the family. and that I started going that way. And I'm like, oh, I see where this is going. And I said, all right, thanks for your help. And I pretty much ripped up my application and threw it in the garbage. And here I am. And there's zero regrets about that decision, because it was the best decision I ever made, because, I always had passion for animals and I always had passion for medicine. So it was just the perfect combination. A little bit of a unique story about how I became a veterinarian.
Yes, that's funny. Well, and that's good that you were able to still think about what you truly wanted and saw that this was the path that seemed right and fit.
And I cannot imagine my life being a medical doctor and anything different than a veterinarian. So if I had to do it again, I would absolutely do it again.
Would have ripped that paper faster. No,
I would, yeah, I would even call my mother.
So, what was the transition going into the United States?
Definitely, I would say second best and hardest decision I ever made for myself in my life. When I finished veterinary school, it was right at the time that Venezuela was starting to go through a very difficult political environment, and things were starting to get a little bit fuzzy. So to put it in those words, and I had the pleasure and the fortune that in my last semester of veterinary school, I did a externship here in a small animal practice in Florida. I was so driven and so excited and inspired by the way that people loved animals here in the United States and the way that veterinary medicine was advanced. And I think that was the moment of realization. It's like, this is, again, what I've been looking for, and practice veterinary medicine like I want to practice veterinary medicine. Without hesitation, I went back, I finished my school, got my diploma, told my parents I'm moving to the United States. I was only 23 years old. I said, this is the best time to do it. I had the fortune that my sister already was living in Miami, so I could stay with her for a little bit, and which turned out to be a tremendous help. I came over and I went through a series of process for working visas and all kind of immigration stuff, with the goal of absolutely becoming a licensed veterinarian here. In the transition, while I was studying for my boards and studying English, because I only spoke Spanish back then, I worked as a tech and or as a veterinary assistant, and I learned so much. I mean, it was a different level, because I was placing catheters, I was doing venipunctures, I was doing all kind of things that veterinarians usually don't do. Like, you just do your diagnosis, you examine your patient, you tell the techs what you need done, and then you move into the next patient. So I feel that having that experience first definitely helped me preparing to be a better veterinarian overall. I figured out later in life that there's a lot of veterinary students that unfortunately don't have that kind of hands-on experience coming out of vet school. So I think that was very important for me. More than anything, I worked with face-to-face with pet parents, and that learning right there is worth everything, because that's when I learned to be patient and I learned to listen. And it really, it was definitely the best schooling for me to be able to become a better and more compassionate veterinarian in the end. I became licensed in the state of Florida in 2008. And then from there, my career has been evolving, always evolving. And I had a lot of fun. I have had a lot of fun so far. So
Yes, and you were with Banfield for quite a while and kind of climbed the ladder through Banfield. So, do you mind sharing a little bit about that experience?
yeah, I started with Banfield in 2008, right after I got my license. I was an associate veterinarian. I loved that I had mentorship when I started with them, putting my feet on the ground for a little bit before I was on my own, which I started being on my own very quickly right after that. I started feeling a very strong passion about management and about leadership roles that were happening within Banfield at that time. I was promoted into a chief of staff position for a busy practice here in Pembroke Pines, Florida. And, it was a very rewarding experience because it was a hospital potential, but it needed good leadership. And as I was learning how to be a good leader for my team and for my patients and for my clients, we were able to make the hospital very successful. And it was a very high volume practice with high levels of veterinary quality, which it's not easy to do, as you know. So shortly after that, I was promoted into a medical director position for the South Florida market, which at the time was Miami and Puerto Rico. I had the blessing of having the opportunity to actually open the first technically overseas veterinary operation that Banfield ever done. And I was opening all the hospitals in Puerto Rico and hiring the teams and putting teams together and getting them started. And that taught me a ton. Plus, Puerto Rico is one of my favorite places in the world. So that was another definitely very big plus for me. After that, we had a very successful couple of years, and that role in the South Florida market was going through a big transition of opening the first standalone hospitals in the Southeast. So we started opening hospitals that were outside of PetSmart operations, which it had its own challenges, but it was a very, very good dynamic. So I learned a lot about hospital opening and putting teams together and training and all that stuff. After that, I was promoted into a regional medical director role. I was in charge of the Southeast. I believe it was one of the 7 regions at the time. And that then brought a challenge of its own, right? I mean, I went from being responsible for 4 or 5 chief of staff that I had at the time and approximately 17, 18 hospitals. For now, 10 medical directors and 10 different markets and about 117 hospitals across the Southeast. So definitely very different dynamic from someone that didn't necessarily come from business school or he had some sort of management background. It was a big learning curve for me. So that was super exciting and I learned a ton. I enjoyed it until I found myself in an airport and on a plane Monday through Friday every week when my son was a year old. So that was a little bit difficult to deal with at the moment. And then there was a transition with Banfield leadership, and they started readjusting regions across the entire company. And I found the opportunity to say, I want to go back to a market and be closer to my family, which it was a hard decision to make, but it was definitely the right choice. And that was my last role with Banfield. I was the director of veterinary quality for Central Florida, which it was a big market that went from a little bit south of Orlando all the way to the Panhandle. So it required some level of traveling, but still, I was home a lot more than before. And again, a lot of success in the market with Banfield. So I have really good stories, about being successful working for, the largest veterinary group in the U.S. And I learned a ton. Were they difficult times and challenges and difficult people? Absolutely. But you'll find those everywhere. So
is there a particular story that stands out since you mentioned that, or?
being in different leadership roles within the same company and people seeing you grow with the company as the company continues to grow, there's always going to be one or two people that they're always going to try to make it a little harder. And without saying any names, I can just tell you that it was not an easy walk on the park, but it helped me to learn to be very resilient as a leader and to manage the relationships that you have to build when you're at a high level, in a very large company, which was a dynamic that I didn't had any experience with before. So it's definitely something that served me for my future career after that. The highlight of that story of my years with Banfield, besides all the learning and all the beautiful things that I lived during that time, is that I met my wife in Puerto Rico, and I met the love of my life. And I think that was definitely I was at the right place at the right time, and when I met her, and I'm the luckiest guy for that. So
Oh, now I know why you like Puerto Rico so much. So
yeah, and yeah.
well, so you brought up building relationships and going back to the work relationships. This is something that I've learned as well, having a lot of conversations for the podcast, is the relationship between our veterinary technicians, nurses, assistants, and the doctor. And so it made me think about that when you were talking about you spent time as a veterinary assistant and then you became a veterinarian, and you've climbed the ladder. You've had to be a leader in multiple sizes and settings. So from your experience, how do you feel the relationship is in your observations between the different people within the hospital, and any learnings that you have kind of come from that?
Oh, absolutely. So many stories, so many good learnings. But one of my primary roles as a medical director and as a regional medical director was to observe the dynamic and the working relationship between the teams. I was responsible of the veterinary quality, but I was also responsible about finances. I was also responsible about the well-being of the employees. So I was responsible for a lot of things. That relationship between teams was crucial. It's not a very complicated formula. Teams that get along and work really well are very successful teams. Teams that don't do that, they fail. And in part is because I think the dynamic in a team scenario, it involves a lot of sacrifices for each other's. It's almost becomes like a family. And sometimes I hate to use that term because it's your work family. And so it has to be a lot of tolerance. It has to be a lot of respect. And there's got to be a lot of patience because you're under a lot of stress. You're working together. We all have our problems. And some of us leave our problems at home. Some of us bring it to us with us at work. And we all have to get along and be there for the patients and be there for the clients. And I think the dynamic that it's the most difficult dynamic in a hospital is definitely the dynamic between the doctors and the rest of the team. and how doctors manage stressful situations, and how doctors can absolutely influence how the rest of the team will feel for the rest of the day. So one of the biggest learnings and when I was an associate veterinarian too, is that if I was stressed, if I was scared, if I was doubtful, the team will sense that and they will actually feel the same way, because they look at you as the leader in the hospital, whether you are really the true leader, whether you have a hospital that has a practice manager, whether you have a hospital that has leadership, that regional leadership that comes and visit the hospital. If you work for a veterinary group, that doctors in the hospital are leaders within the hospitals, and the team looks up to you for answers. So if I would have come to one of my team members when they had a problem and when they had a situation and they say, I can't talk right now because I'm busy, I have to go and do this, I would have let them down. And I think one of the hardest things for me as a veterinarian in a hospital was to be able to help my team with the challenges that were happening to them while I was still doing what needed to get done for myself. But I think because we do, unfortunately, veterinarians, we do have that responsibility on our belt, and we are natural leaders in the hospital setting because we're making the most important decisions for our patients. We need to be very self-aware, and we need to be aware that our emotions and the way that we treat people can absolutely affect the rest of the team. Remember, people usually don't leave a place because everything is going well. They leave a place because of conflicts with another human being. So it's always important to keep that in mind.
Yes. And I think this is something that is part of the transition out of vet school that we don't talk a lot about. It will feel almost instantaneous when you put that white coat on or you step into clinics as a brand new baby veterinarian.
Yeah.
You become a leader, and
Yeah.
that's how people are going to see you. And it's not just about how do I diagnose this cat in front of me? It's also how do I maintain relationships within the hospital with clients? So, what are some of the best things that you would recommend veterinarians? How do we get that support? How do we start learning, people skills on top of clinical skills?
Anything that you can do during your veterinary preparation career, so before vet school or during vet school, is you should invest into communication skills. Some veterinary schools have started to include those programs. I believe pretty much all veterinary schools within the United States have some sort of communication skill into their curriculum, but it's not enough. You really need to seek for self-development and really invest into reading books or listening to podcasts or going into webinars that talk about the importance of the human relationship in a work setting, and also the relationship with your clients and how to improve your communication skills. I think another important topic that is important for veterinarians to read and to learn about is emotional intelligence.
Mm.
That definitely helped me tremendously. And I think that we definitely need to learn that we all have a very high IQ, but you'll be surprised how many of us graduate from vet school with a very low EQ. And that emotional intelligence is actually at times going to be more beneficial to you than your natural born intelligence. We are very driven by reading books and by learning by doing. So I will say that definitely invest into emotional intelligence and listening to podcasts or watching webinars that teach you about emotional intelligence, or going to a CE lecture in one of the veterinary conferences will definitely prepare you for that. The other thing, and this is once you are in the clinical setup, is understand that you are the medical leader, but your team knows a lot. It is important to trust your team. Trust is something that a lot of us as veterinarians don't have in others many often. And, it's not necessarily that we do it on purpose. It's somewhat we have been burned before by something that has to do with trust. So we delegated a task, that task didn't get done, it affected a patient, and that experience right there ruined the trust for us in the future. Understand that trust is not something that you build within a week. It takes time, but you have to invest on the others. You have to invest in making sure that you give them the tools and you give them what's necessary to be able to build that skill set for you to be able to trust them. So if you go, and I'm going to give you just examples that happen on a daily basis, but if you like to do ear cytologies and you expect that all your techs going to read your ear cytologies for you, you should invest a little bit of time on going over some of the things that you see on an ear cytology and how an ear cytology should be written in the medical records, and some of the drugs that we recommend when we see yeast over when we see bacteria. I think it is fair for you to invest some time on your team. And hey, you might land on a team when everybody knows that because they've been in the field for a while, or they are licensed veterinary technicians. Perfect. Not all of us have that luxury. So I think you have to invest in how is it that you want tasks and things to be done for you to be satisfied, to be able to then delegate those tasks and those simple things to your team. Also understand that they have opinions. So just because you love Mometamax or you love, one particular medication, it doesn't mean that the others are not good. There are times that, I listen to the text, and I listen to the text even now. I still say and ask, hey, what do you guys think about this? And I think that not only makes them feel important and makes them feel that their opinion counts, it also teaches you. I learned so much from everybody. I think you learn every day. I think that learning from your techs and learning from your team is very important. Also understand that they're under a lot of stress. They have a lot on their plate too. And by the way, they are suffering or going through the same emotional things that you might be going through in the profession. So compassion fatigue, imposter syndrome, and all these things, high stress levels of stress at work. So understand that your team is also going through that. Once you manage to build that trust with your team, your life is going to be a lot easier, because now you're going to delegate simple things that you don't need to be doing, and you need to focus on what's really important that only you can do. So I think that's probably the way that I would recommend the new generation of veterinarians to go for it.
I think that was wonderful. I heard several things there about how to build trust. One is to listen to your team. Just listen to the people around you. I think this is a natural human skill, whether you want to take this back home. I've had conversations with my husband about this too.
Yeah.
Listen to the people around you. That's going to help build trust because they know that you're hearing them and that you're considering them. I also heard empathy,
Yeah.
remembering that other people are having a hard time. All of those things are going to be going towards building that trust. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because again, I don't know if that's something that we talk enough about, is that building the trust. I think starting with your team is a huge place. Because we also need to probably work on building trust with our clients as well. So I think trust is a great topic. Like you said, it takes time. Start it now, because it's going to make your life down the road so much better if you have that trust established. And I see it, see it everywhere, not just in the clinics. I see it in industry and all over. So speaking of industry, you transitioned out of clinics for a little while. You went to work for Chewy for a couple of years, I believe. So tell us the story there.
Yeah, that was a very unpopular decision that I made. But it was very rewarding. I'll tell you, at that point, I had been with Banfield for 11 years. I've been in pretty much every position that you can do with Banfield within going further up, which it wasn't my intention at the time. And I wanted to really explore other opportunities within industries that were not just working for a pharmaceutical company that most of people do or a nutritional company. I wanted to do something different. And to be fair and transparent, like the opportunity just landed on my lap. I just saw it online. I applied and I went for it and I got the job. I was hired as a senior veterinarian relationships manager with the goal of building relationships and building plans to build relationship between veterinarians and Chewy. I was literally 2 months into my role working in the office, and we got hit by the worst pandemic that human history had known. I was sent home and the focus definitely shifted. And we started hearing that people were unable to go and see their veterinarian and they couldn't get help for their pets. Veterinarians were packed, they were closed. Most of them, they lost staff due to illness. There were some states where regulatory or mandatory laws were put in place where you couldn't really go to the office and see pets. So it was a very difficult moment. Pretty much the goal was to try to figure it out how could Chewy help their customers get information they needed, especially help on knowing what do you do? What do you do when your pet is sick? I helped in the process of building what is today the telehealth platform, which was a very interesting journey. I mean, working for an e-commerce, it's pretty much based on technology. You know, I found myself working with designers. I found myself working with programmers, with engineers. And it was completely new to me. And I started learning all this lingo or like UX and portal and banners and all these kind of things that go into a web page or go into a platform. It was a very successful and rewarding experience because telehealth platform definitely helped treat customers to get a peace of mind on what to do in a moment of stress when they don't know what's going on with their pets. Even though it's a touchy subject, I think overall the results of that was that a lot of people were able to get the right help for their pets at the moment they needed it. Initially, we didn't know how many people were actually going to the veterinarian when we told them to go to the veterinarian. And then we realized that actually it was most of them that were following the advice. So yeah, it was very cool, very rewarding. I also worked in different projects. I worked in different things, so with different teams and people. I learned a lot. It also helped me understand a little bit better of what I needed to do with my life moving forward. And that's when the entrepreneurship light bulb started to kind of like starting flicker. It's been there for a while, something that has been in the back of my head for a long time, but that's when it's finally started clicking and saying like, you know, this is probably a good time to transition into something that you can do on your own.
Yeah, I mean, you were learning all sorts of additional skills, I'm sure, being in industry, like you mentioned, a lot of website lingo, which all goes into a business as well, as especially living in the time we are, learning those technical skills how to build a website, how to communicate with customers in a digital way, I'm sure is all kind of going into, hopefully it helped you feel confident too, knowing some of these things to be able to start to open your own clinic, which is what you're in the
Yeah.
midst of doing. You want to share a little bit about your entrepreneurial adventure
Well,
starting your own clinic?
absolutely, absolutely. So first, let me just start by saying that it's been quite some time since I have felt so passionate and so pumped about a work project. So it's been definitely a very exciting path for me. It's one of those things that I believe that everything comes in life at the right time. I think that before I wasn't prepared to be a business owner and go on my own. And I think COVID had a lot to do with teaching me that. And I think it is also a responsibility, an internal responsibility I have, that I think there's a very big need. Well, not I think, I am absolutely positive there is a very big need for veterinary practices, but more than veterinary practices, there's a very big need for veterinarians. I'm not gonna lie. I felt a little bit kind of like being working in industry. I wasn't doing the profession the best I could do for patients. And I said, okay, well, you know what? I can definitely do what I love, which is going back to practice. And I missed it. And the truth is that I always missed it. I always missed having that face to face with the clients. I know some of the veterinarians are going to say, like, oh my God, you're crazy. You love talking to clients. I do. I actually do. And also, I miss pets on a daily basis and treating them and all the medicine and the surgery. It was definitely a part of my life that was empty. I also realized that the knowledge that I have gained through my career being in industry definitely prepared me to be a successful business owner. So I think it was the right timing. So I am now the founder and owner of For Life Vets. That's the name of our brand. Super excited to be opening a brand new practice this fall. Is projected to be opening day in first week of November. We are building the practice from the ground up. Is brand new. And the one thing that we wanted to do, my wife and I, was we wanted to do something different. We learned with time that clients needed a little bit more of personalized care when it came to their pets. We are in an era where pets are family members. For some people, pets are their kids. They should be treated as such. And you need to understand that people are extremely emotionally connected to their pets. So, understanding the client communication and client satisfaction is key. And let me say it again, key in having a successful veterinary business. And unfortunately, I'm not afraid to say this, it's lacking. It's lacking big time today in veterinary practices. I think that veterinarians have for years gotten bitten in the head by clients that perhaps mistreated them, or didn't treat them fairly, or they didn't want to spend money and time with their pets. And that kind of like creates a shield where, like, well, I guess I don't care anymore. I think it's naturally to block yourself and lose a little bit of empathy um towards pet parents. But it's funny, we never lose the empathy for the pets, right? And no matter who you ask, like, like, I wish the pets can actually come in and like check in and pay.
By
Well,
themselves.
by themselves, like having a little collar with like a tab.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that we're not there yet. So you need their clients. Also, I understood this a while ago. We need to partner with the clients. because they're going to be the ones doing the treatment for their pet. If they are unsatisfied with you as a veterinarian or you as a veterinary team, that pet is not going to be taken care of, and it's not going to get the care that it really needs. That was another reason why I derail a little bit from the question, but I think that's one of the other reasons why, I wanted to start with For Life Vets, because we're a customer obsessed or a customer centric practice where our love and passion for pets, it's never going to change. I learned that, like, we love pets, we all love pets, that's never going to change. But what it needs to change is the way that we see clients and the way that we have defined the client experience throughout a veterinary visit, to the point that people pretty much, they drag their feet on the floor every time they have to come to the veterinarian. And that shouldn't be like that. I mean, nobody likes to go to the doctor, and then yet doctors and hospitals, they haven't lost any business. So I think that there's a lot of learning that we have to do in the profession to be at pair with human medicine and dentistry, where there's got to be that human touch, and clients are looking for that human touch. So it is important to build practices that are client focused and they're customer focused, because at the end of the day, again, we're not going to be able to help those pets if we don't do a good job with the clients. And it's a very difficult place to navigate. It's a very difficult skill to build. But again, I think these are the times where it needs to happen. The human animal bond continues to be stronger. That's not going to go away. So we need to figure it out as veterinarians. How can we serve clients where they want to be served, how they want to be served, and use technology to leverage the needs that exist for patient care. I mean, one example is I still go to veterinary clinics where half of the lobby is covered with, food and stuff that they're selling, which is very good. But we have to understand there is a generation of pet parents. As a matter of fact, the largest generation of pet parents are millennials, and they like to shop online, and they like to buy their food or buy their heartworm prevention while they are watching Netflix at 11 p.m. at night. And guess what? We are closed at 11 p.m. at night. So they're not going to come to you to buy that bag of food or to buy that treat or whatever medication your pet needs. So I think we need to definitely become more connected with technology. The other thing too is access to care. So the way that traditional veterinary medicine is today is you need an appointment to come and see a veterinarian. Based on the state's boards and the way that the law is, absolutely you need to have a client-patient relationship in order to be able to diagnose and treat. That, I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. I think that's going to stay for a while. But for your existing patients, I think there's a lot of ways to help them. And leveraging technology, using text, using telehealth, using resources. I mean, resources sometimes can save you a bunch of time. I mean, a lot of times someone, reaches out and say, my dog ate chocolate, and they don't know anything about, they know it's toxic, but they don't know really a lot about it. And I think it's just having resources on your webpage. I was like, this is what you do when your dog ingests chocolate. These are the most toxic types of chocolates that a pet can do. The correlation between weight and the portion and the type of chocolate they ate. And there are already some web pages out there that have resources on calculating the lethal dose of chocolate for your pet and what kind of symptoms are going to be. And you should incorporate that on your webpage. And you should be educating your clients on things before they even come to see you. So leveraging technology, incorporating resources into your web pages, and making sure that you give them the ability to have an alternative to get veterinary care without necessarily coming into your building and seeing you face to face.
And just for those who may be getting nervous by that and who might be a little hesitant around technology, because I have heard these conversations, there is something that technology will never take away from us as veterinarians. And it's something that we need to continually grow and improve. And it's something you just talked about. And that is the relationship with our clients, that human touch. That is only something that we can bring. And we only are going to get there if we work on building the trust with our client. If we do improve communication, we do try to find that empathy within us. And I know this sounds hard because especially within the pandemic, humanity has felt like it has changed a little bit, that
Yeah.
people are a little bit, probably a little out of fear. They might feel like they're a little bit harder to get along with. I think it has to go back to that empathy, acknowledging that all of us are feeling a little bit of fear. All of us are feeling a little bit stressed. If somebody is just saying a little bit, what are you talking about? A lot bit really is going back to how can I be a good human being and establish that relationship with my client, being client centered in the name of the pet. If that's what we have to draw upon, is that the love for the pet, we're doing it for them. It
Yeah.
really is. It's like I said, it's going to make our lives so much easier by focusing on that. If we can leverage technology, because like you said, meeting them where they are, if the largest population of pet owners or pet parents are the millennial generation, and even older generations are still, thanks to the pandemic, are more tech savvy. They are more used to ordering their groceries online along with their dog food or whatever. Understand that, find ways that you can incorporate that, meet them where they are. I think these are such valuable things to improve our lives. It will make your life so much easier. I think it's what you talked about. What you missed was having that relationship with the client. It can be a beautiful thing. I think this is a very important topic. So,
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just to close on that, like even resources on your social media. I mean, I applaud every time that I'm on social media and I see practices that are posting and things to know, what not to do in the summer. Don't walk your dog on the pavement. Do you know that when it's 80 degrees outside, it's 100 degrees on the pavement, and
mhm.
things like that. Lilies are toxic to cats. Don't own lilies inside your house if you have a cat.
A
Little
lot of people
things
don't
like
know that.
that. I think with and it's with technology. I mean, I have a nephew who's is Generation Z, and he doesn't call me, he doesn't text me, but if I text him on Instagram, he responds like this. So guess what? Our new way of communication, we communicate through Instagram, and it works. So yeah, we definitely have to find the ways to what motivates our clients and how they want to be served, and definitely meet them where they're at.
And you don't have to do it by yourself. You have teams that you can do that with. Who knows in your team who might be able to be that Instagram guru and who would love the opportunity to start building out social media content or link resources onto the website. So again, that could be career development for somebody. You never know. So listen to your team. You may have somebody who can do that and would thrive at
And they will be happy. They will be
it.
so happy to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we are almost out of time. Oh my goodness. So we will close with our final four questions that I have for you. And the first question is, what is something on your bucket list?
There's really one that I definitely want to do when I retire, and I definitely want to travel to places where there's a need for veterinary care. especially developing countries, and help those communities, not only providing care for those pets, but and those animals in some communities is not even they're not even domesticated animals, and sometimes they're wildlife, but provide them with the right education, because we sometimes forget that there's an entire world out there where still has rabies, still finding a stray dog in the street and go and pet it. It's forbidden. You don't do that. And it's all about education. So definitely I would like to travel to countries that need veterinary care and help them provide care and education.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. The next question is, what is a moment of simple joy for you?
There's a lot of things and a lot of people that bring joy in my life. I think a moment of joy, I like to play guitar. I like to play guitar for myself. It is relaxing when I do it for myself. It is one of the only things that I'm able to do where I completely zone out of the entire world. And the only thing that matters is the music that is coming out of that amp or that guitar. So it's something that I really enjoy. I recommend every veterinary professional out there to find a hobby that helps you disconnect out of your daily life. It would definitely help you reduce stress and be able to get that mindfulness done. If I have to play for people, then the joy goes away and I get nervous.
It's good to have something for yourself. No, I like that. It's a special place. Yeah, I like it. All
For
right.
sure.
Next one is, if you could create one law that everyone had to follow, what would your law be?
Uh, there are so many that I would like to do. I wouldn't know how to start, but I love animals. I love pets. Many laws need to be created that advocate for the well-being of animals in general. I think that there has been some organizations that had done a phenomenal job at doing that. And there have been others that actually have taken a complete different approach and actually exaggerate things to an extreme. So I think we have to definitely build some laws where compassion is definitely in the well-being, into the well-being of animals. We definitely need to make more laws that protect wildlife. We can't continue seeing animals getting extinct every year. We not only have to protect these animals and keep them in zoos and in sanctuaries where they can reproduce and then put them back in the wild, we also have to protect their environment. So I think that laws that protect areas on national parks, areas in every country where like you're not able to build anything in there, you're not able to deforest or do anything like that. I think there's got to be more and more laws about that for sure.
Yeah, it also highlights how many different ways that we can actually help animals if you think about it. Final question is, what is one thing you are most grateful for?
I am grateful for a lot of things, but this couple of years have been very tough and difficult times for a lot of families and a lot of people. One thing that I am very grateful is that I'm healthy and that my family and my loved ones are healthy. Pandemic definitely made a lot of people unhealthy, and they went through a lot of health issues, and they're still going through a lot of health issues, and so many people lost their lives. So I think that is one thing that I'm definitely very grateful that we're healthy, and by being healthy, you're able to do whatever you can do.
Well, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for having me so much. I mean, I enjoyed this. I love to help, and I love to especially help the young generations of veterinary professionals to be successful in their careers, because my heart breaks every time that I hear somebody say, I'm no longer want to be a veterinarian, or I no longer want to be a veterinary professional. So there is a way you can do it. You can be successful. You just need to learn certain things to get there. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
This has been the Vet Life Reimagined podcast. Whether you are listening or watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please make sure you are subscribed to catch all these amazing people in our profession. Also, send this episode to someone you think who would appreciate it. Have a recommendation for someone who would be a good guest? Please reach out on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. There aren't that many Dr. Sprinkles. Until next time, Vet Lifers.